2 days ago, OpenAI released Swarm. Now, what it is an educational framework for developers, and it's about building multi-agent workflows. What we're going to do today is we're going to come up to the code and click on clone and bring it down to the computer. After that, we'll look through some of the documentation, see how it works, look at a little bit of code, and finally, we're going to go through the examples. So they've got a bunch of examples available inside the code base, and we'll test them out on the system. I'm AppyDave. Please like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The Swarm project is focusing on execution and coordination, and it has two different concepts within it. One is called agents and the other is handoffs. And with agents, what we're looking at are instructions and tools. With the handoffs, if we go over to the document related to this, there's a cookbook orchestrating agents, routines and handoffs. And it's defined as an agent that hands off processing to another agent. Now, the Swarm project is essentially an area to explore patterns, the patterns for lightweight, scalable and highly customizable design. This is not a replacement for Crew AI or other sorts of frameworks like that as yet, and it's more about educating developers on how they can work with large language models in a workflow and step-oriented system. But to get started, let's come to the top here. We're going to click on code, and in this case, I'm going to use GitHub CLI, and I've just created a folder called test, and we're going to paste in gh repo clone OpenAI/Swarm and let it come down. Now, the repository with the examples are on the computer, but what we'll do is we'll come here and we'll click on the install command. And coming back to the terminal, we'll just paste in that command and make sure it's installed. Now, I've opened up the repository here in VS Code, and we should check out a few things. So if we open up the Swarm directory, you'll see that there's a little bit of code going on in the system, and we'll check some of that out later if needed. There's examples, and we're definitely going to be working through here, but it's the assets we'll start with. So if we go and look at the Swarm diagram, you can see what's the weather in New York, and that's being sent to a triage assistant. And its job is to go, well, what is the question coming in, and hand it off to the correct agent. In this case, it's the weather assistant. It says it's 67 degrees in New York. Now, if we come back and look at the examples, there's already a weather agent system that we can go and look at. If we look at the README file, it says this example is a weather agent demonstrating function calling with a single agent. So very similar to what we just. Now, getting started, when you look at this file, there's the import of the agent from Swarm, and then there's two functions going on, and we can see that these functions are being put into an array on the functions property of the agent, and we'll look a bit later as to how this is actually running. But let's have a look at some of the documentation related. So I've put together this image that shows that it's initiating the weather agent, and then it's delegating to the get weather request, and some input parameters need to come through to that, the location and the time. From that, it should be able to retrieve the weather data. Now, this is mock data that comes through in the system, but this is where you would put call to an API. And then after that, it's returned the weather information, and it can then do other tasks such as sending an email, and if you provide the correct email details, the goal would be that it sends an email. Now, further into the documentation, what the main starting point is an agent, and it just has a system prompt or an instruction called "you are a helpful agent." And the only other thing it knows about is that it's got two functions that it can delegate responsibility to, the get weather and the send email. So when we look at those functions, we'll see that the get weather is get the current weather in a given location. Location must be a city, and that's listed, and there's also a time, and this at the moment, when we look at the functions, will default to now. The goal of this is to return some sort of JSON structure that has the information we need. There's also an additional function going on called send email. With that, it takes a recipient, subject and body, and we'll see how well that works. So let's work out how we're going to run this. So it's pretty simple. It says here Python 3 run py. Now, what is that? So we're currently looking at code from the agents py. There's also this run py, and it's taking the weather agent that we've just defined right here and putting it through to something called run demo loop. So what is that? So if we come down to the Swarm area, we have this file called REPL.py Pi, and within that we've got the ability to process and print the streaming responses. We can do pretty messages, but the main loop that's going on is sitting here. So the incoming agent, in this case weather agent, would come in through here and it would get passed in to the client.run in the agent variable, and the agent variable is just being loaded there. So I've got the code open, but we've come into terminal, and what we'll do is we'll cd into the examples weather agent folder. From there we should be able to do the Python 3 run.py and see what we get. So the first thing it's saying is who is the user, and I might just say, hi, I'm AppyDave, and we'll see what it comes up with. Hello AppyDave, how can I assist you today? What is the temperature, can't spell I think, in Sydney? And we'll see what it comes up with. So it's calling a function called getWeather, and it says the current temperature in Sydney is 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Now when we look at the code, we can see that that's hard coded into the system. So if you want this to return a real value, you would go and change this line so that it's calling some sort of API to get the current weather for the location and time. But let's move on to the next one. So this is sending an email to a recipient. And there's 3 parameters going on. Who is it to, subject and body. Let's see how this works. Now we're back at the terminal, and I'm going to say, can you send email to david@appydave.com, and see what it comes up with. It said, could you please provide the subject and body of the email? Subject is hot today. So it's come back with this message. The email has been sent to david@appydave.com with the subject, what is hot, and the body, Agent Workflow Builder is hot today. The Agent Workflow Builder is a software application that I'm building in public at the moment, so I'm demonstrating the code as it goes, and it's basically around designing agent workflows like the ones we're working with right now. With the weather agent complete, let's close that down and we'll move on to the triage agent. Now if we go and look at the README file first, we can see this is an example of a swarm with a triage agent. Takes user inputs, it can respond directly or it can triage and send to other agents like the sales and refund. It says that we can run it from the command line using Python 3 run. If we look at that, we'll see that it's using that same run demo loop example we saw earlier. If we go into the code, we'll see that we've got a couple of handoff functions. We've got 3 different agents going on, some more handoff functions. So let's have a look at that documentation. Here we've got this example of the swarm containing triage agent. We'll take inputs from the user and decide what to do, including sending it to the sales and refund. So we can see the triage agent going on here. It understands what the request type is and will send it to one of these 2 agents. Now from this point, the agents have their own logic that they can do. They can proceed with doing a sale, they can apply discounts or do refunds. So there's a bunch of things going on in here. Now if we look at it from this documentation point of view, there's the main agent, and the instructions are determine which agent is best suited to handle the user's request and transfer the conversation. And who can it transfer to? A handoff function called transfer to sales and one called transfer to refund. So after that, you can see there's a few functions going on here, and some of them return messages like this, a message indicating success of the refund, another one message indicating that the discount was applied. But some of the others will just send information back to a different agent. So this one just comes back to itself, or we can send it off to the sales agent or the refunds agent. So when we look at the sales agent, it's got a main system instruction called be super enthusiastic about selling bees. Now if it can't handle the question coming in, its only job is to go back to the triage agent. A bit further on, we've got the refunds agent. And the main instruction for the refund agent is help the user with a refund. If the reason was too expensive, offer the user a refund code. If they insist, then process the refund. So we've got 2 different handoff functions going on, processing and applying discounts, and otherwise let's go back to the triage with this one as well. So let's go and have a look at a bit of code. We've got a couple of functions going on here. We'll come back to them in a moment because the next area is there are 3 agents being defined. Now the first agent with a name and instructions is going to control the whole process. From that, it has a sales agent we can work with, and one of the things that the refunds agent can do is delegate responsibility to handoffs. So we got the process refund and the applied discount, and we can see that information going on here. Now if we come back to the sales agent and we go, be super enthusiastic about selling bees, and I think that might be the first thing that we can just play around with and change before we run the agent. So what we'll do is change bees to we're selling Agent Workflow Builder. This is the application that I'm building in public around designing these sorts of workflows. Now the next thing we've got is help the users with a refund. If the reason is that it's too expensive, offer the user a refund code. Well, why don't we change that to a discount code? We'll call it AWB Early Access. After that, we've got a couple more handoff functions that we can call, and they're being linked up to the triage agent right here. Now after that, we've got a final set of handoff functions. So if we think of the first 2 handoff functions as being used by the refunds agent here, then what these ones offer is the transfer back to triage is available to both the sales and the refund agent, whereas the triage agent can send things to either the sales or the refunds agent. So I've just come down to terminal, we're in Swarm. I think I'm just going to paste in Agent Workflow Builder, see what it comes up with. It says, it looks like you're interested in building a workflow for agents. That's exactly true. I might just say, can I get a discount? That would be great. So it's thinking at the moment. It says, could you please let me know the reason you're looking for a discount? I can offer you a discount code of AWB Early Access. That sounds good. I want the AWB Early Access. Can you apply it? I've successfully applied the discount using the code AWB Early Access. It's added to your cart, saving you $100. So let's see if we can buy it. I would like to buy AWB. And it says, great choice. The purchase of Agent Workflow Builder. You can proceed to the cart with the discount already applied. Buy it. I wonder whether this is actually going to work. So it says, it looks like you're ready to make a purchase. I'll transfer you back to our triage agent. So we'll assume it's done. What I'll say is, I have bought, when will you ship? And it's just come back with, for inquiries related to shipping and order delivery, let me transfer you to our sales consultant. So I think we'll go and do a bit of a loop if we keep doing this, but that's the triage, and we've had multiple agents working together. We've been able to go back to the master agent. We've been able to go back to the triage agent. We've been able to go from the refund agent to the sales agent, and this is a pretty interesting workflow. So let's go back to the code and see what we just went through. We came in using the triage agent, and from that I asked for a discount. So that took us over to the discount agent that I've put here. We saw both of these function handoffs called. So we got the process discount, the applied discount, and you can see it said discounting item because, and it had some sort of reason. And then it said applying a discount, it said applied $100 to your cart. Now at that point, I also had a couple of issues getting back to the sales agent. And when I came back and looked at the code, it made complete sense why it happened. And the reason for that is that the discount agent currently has 3 areas it can go to. It can process a discount, it can apply a discount. The only other area it can do down here is go back to triage. So the next step would have been to go back to the operator, the triage, and from there move on to the sales. So all up, this is an incredible little workflow and really quite simple. So we've finished the Weber bot. That was fairly simple. We've moved on and done the triage, sales and refund bot. That's a little bit more complex. Let's see what's next. So if we minimize this file and we go over to the support bot, we can see that there's a fair bit more going on. There's a requirements text going on. We've got a Docker container. Looks like we've got a bunch of articles in the form of JSON documents. Now what I want to do is see if I can get this up and running. So we've got the user interface agent and the help center agent, and there's a bunch of things that we've got to do. I've already run the make install. So let's just get Docker Composer up. We'll start that. It's running. So we come over to prep data. We've got some imports. We've got an embedding model. We're querying through articles. That's the JSON documents. And we're running an embeddings against them. So we're getting the vector data from this and storing it into QD-Rant client. And what else have we got going on here? If the collection exists, delete it, otherwise create the collection and then upsert the data. Let's see if this works. So I ran this a couple of times and I got a few errors, but one of the things I tried was just trying to hit the collections here. I believe the data is in, so let's just see if I can get this working. So we'll come over to our documentation and we've got this new concept called the support bot. This is an example of a customer service bot which includes a user interface agent and a help center agent. So they're represented here. Help center agent can query documents, submit a ticket, send an email and transfer to the help center agent, which is itself, I'm assuming. So there must be other sub-agents going on here. And then we've got the support agent also querying docs, submitting tickets and sending an email. So the idea of the support agent is to handle interactions with the user, called for general support issues that aren't handled by other agents, can query the documentation, submit a ticket and send an email. If we move on down to the help center agent, we got this deals with questions about OpenAI agents such as GPT models, DALL-E and Whisper. So we'll ask questions of that later. So let's give it a whirl. So I think we'll use it before looking at the code this time. I'm just going to say I'm David and see what it comes up with. Could you please provide more context or specify a query related to David? Well, I would like to know the time in Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is currently where I'm living. So Chiang Mai, Thailand. And hopefully that uses a general sort of bot. The local time in Chiang Mai, Thailand is currently 7 hours ahead of Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC. Please check your local time to add time differences. Well, that's great. Can I ask questions about ChatGPT or OpenAI? It should have documents related to them. How do I write a prompt for DALL-E 3? It says creating a prompt for DALL-E 3, the AI model designed to generate images from text descriptions, involves clear and descriptive help. So we've got be specific, clear language, include style and medium, etc. Okay, how do I make an API call to the completions API for chat? And we've had a whole lot of information come through. Set up your environment, pip install requests, obtain an API call, write your API calls. Now, what are we working with? We're working with the user interface agent in this case. So I'm not sure whether a second agent has come into play. I reckon we should have a look at the code now. So I've come over to the main Py file. Here we've got query, the vector store, we've got query docs, and then we've got a couple of handoff functions, send email, submit ticket, and transfer to the help center. Then the user interface agent, which was where I was at, so that wasn't doing anything to communicate with the database from what I can tell. And if we look at the help center agent, which is where we need to be, this is where we can query docs, submit a ticket, or send an email. Maybe let's try and get to the help center agent. We're back at our chat client, so we'll say transfer me to the help center. I don't know whether I need the word agent. I probably shouldn't need it. And let's see if that changes. So now we're on a help center agent. Seems that a transfer function is not available at the current stage. However, I can assist you with issues directly. Can I submit a ticket around errors with vector store, which was what I was dealing with earlier. So the main thing I'm trying to do is see whether the submission ticket system works. It says your ticket regarding errors has been successfully entered. Can I search for articles on OpenAI? We'll go with the voice API, see what it says. Searching for knowledge, retrieving. So it looks like it worked. If we just grab this searching knowledge base for query and we do a search in here, we can see it popping up, OpenAI voice API, and it's come up with some information. Let's just go back to main agent, see what happens. We're still with the help center agent. Let's go back to user interface agent, see if we can go back that far. And we can't. That's okay. And exit won't do anything, I don't believe. Have a great day. It gives us a message, so that's pretty cool. So I did have a couple of configuration issues with the support bot, but did get it up and running. Things like the personal shopper and customer service I didn't use, but let's have a look at basic, and we've got these little scripts that you can run. We'll just move a couple of them into focus so you can see what's going on. And the last one's called function calling. I believe we can run them all one at a time. So looking at these individually, they're just simple scripts. We've got the agent handoff where we've got English and Spanish, and one of the things going on is there's a transfer to Spanish being called by the English agent. So if we come down here and type in agent handoff and run it, let's see what we get. That's coming through. Hola, I don't know how to say Spanish. Let's move on to the next one. So we've got bare minimum. So let's go Python and we'll type in bare minimum. And what do we got here? How can I assist you today? So that's really all it's saying. We can see that the function calling is just an agent that's helpful, and it will delegate responsibility to a function, and the function will just return some JSON data. If we run that, the weather in New York is currently 67 degrees Fahrenheit. This is great. Let's just move into this last one called context variables. So we've got this context variables here, and there's two key value pairs. So let's change one of them. We'll go name is AppyDave and user ID is 555. And what happens is we've got this instructions coming through, and instructions now is not a string. Instead, it's a function, and it's taking in the context variables. So we can grab the user, which should be AppyDave. You are a helpful agent. Greet the user by name. It should be AppyDave. And if I'm understanding this correctly, we're just going to run two different responses sequentially. So the first one should be a greeting. The next one should be the account details. So let's hit save on that. We'll come over to here and we'll run the context variables script. Hello AppyDave, how can I assist you today? Account details, AppyDave 555. So that's OpenAI's lightweight multi-agent framework called Swarm. It's experimental at the moment. 4,900 stars. Actually, let's just refresh that. It's already gone to 5,100 stars since I started recording this about 2 hours ago. So the next video I'm going to do is hooking up my agent workflow builder into Swarm so that I can automate the stuff that I usually do manually. So this is a workflow that I'll use very soon to publish this video. We'll work through the script, we'll work through the thumbnails, stuff like that. I'm AppyDave. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.